On a stormy night, Rachel Reynolds sat at her cluttered desk, the white light from the computer screen reflecting on her face. Her room was filled with an atmosphere of tension and focus, with only the sound of keyboard taps and the rain responding to each other. Rachel is a journalism student at Widow's Peak High School, the kind who seeks facts and logic even in the most mundane things. Some say she was born to pursue the truth, even those truths that have been forgotten by the world in dark corners. In her final year of high school, every student must complete a graduation project, and Rachel chose a topic close to home: the urban legend of Widow's Peak High School itself, a story that has been passed down through generations. It was said that many years ago, a student named Mary Sawyer mysteriously disappeared within the school grounds. Since then, she has become the centerpiece of a ritual. It's said that if you say her name 3 times in front of the school's mirror, her ghost will appear and bring you bad luck. This story spread among students and became the explanation for various haunted phenomena and unfortunate incidents. However, for Rachel, this was just another unverified claim, a truth hidden behind eerie stories waiting to be unearthed. To delve into this legend, Rachel began gathering all the materials related to Mary Sawyer, from archives in the library to stories from teachers and students around the campus. Every piece of information was like a small piece of a puzzle. She worked hard to piece them together, hoping to reveal the truth. Although many were reticent about Mary's story, Rachel was not afraid. Her curiosity and determination to find the facts drove her forward. Rachel discovered that shortly before her disappearance, Mary had conflicts with the school authorities because she opposed some unjust phenomena on campus. This new discovery added more dimensions to Mary's story and pushed Rachel to investigate further. She began to suspect that Mary's story was not just a ghost legend, but hid deeper secrets, a story about youth, rebellion, and the quest for justice. As time went on, Rachel's investigation became deeper, and she started to realize that this task was not just for a school project, but for those truths that have been forgotten over time but still deserve to be remembered. Her deep sympathy for the fate of Mary Sawyer, a victim characterized as both a horror totem and a campus legend, grew stronger. Every late-night research session, every interview, brought Rachel closer to the truth. She started to realize that this project had become more than just a task for her. It had become a fight for truth and justice. In this fight, Rachel was not just looking for the truth about Mary Sawyer, but also seeking the definition of courage, perseverance, and true self. The night wind continued to howl outside the window, but Rachel still sat there. Although the light on her face was dim, her eyes had never been so bright. On this journey for the truth, she knew, no matter what the ultimate truth was, she had changed. She was no longer the journalism student skeptical of the world, but had become a warrior bravely pursuing the truth. And all of this started with questioning an urban legend. In the progress of this story, Rachel's daily life was suddenly disrupted by an unusual experience. Initially, as an observer, she attended a party out of curiosity. However, the events of this night would forever change her view of the world. The party was held in an old mansion. It was said to have been a noble's residence, but had become the source of many local urban legends over time. The night air was filled with an exciting and mysterious atmosphere, and with the rhythm of the music, Rachel felt as if she was transported to another world. At the climax of the party, a group of peers suddenly suggested performing a ritual, summoning the ghost of Mary Sawyer. Initially, Rachel considered this idea a joke, a small trick to amuse themselves in the party atmosphere. But as her friends became more serious, she realized they were sincere. "Come on, Reynolds, it'll be fine," a classmate encouraged half-jokingly. "It's just a game." Rachel's rational mind told her it was a ridiculous notion. Mary Sawyer was just a legend, a harmless story to provide a thrill on a quiet night. However, out of respect for her friends and an unacknowledged trace of curiosity, she eventually agreed. The ritual started, the music was turned off, and the noise of the party suddenly quieted down. Rachel stood in front of the mirror. Her peers formed a circle around her, and candles were lit ceremonially. In the dim light, Rachel's eyes met her reflection in the mirror, and an indescribable feeling rose in her heart. As Rachel began to chant Mary Sawyer's name according to the legend's instructions, the air's tension slowly peaked. Once, twice, thrice. As she called out each time, the air seemed to grow denser, as if an invisible burden was gathering in the room. After the final call, a faint whisper suddenly traversed the room, weak yet unmistakably clear in the silence, making Rachel question if it was merely her imagination. Despite her doubts, Rachel couldn't deny that the room's atmosphere seemed to have subtly shifted since the whisper echoed. Initially participating in the ritual out of curiosity and a sense of adventure, she now felt a sliver of unknown fear. At that moment, the lights flickered without warning, then went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. In the quietude, only the rustling rain outside seemed to foreshadow upcoming events. Rachel struggled to steady her breath, attempting to normalize her heartbeat. Just then, a cold draft swept through a corner of the room, chilling to the bone. Subsequently, the reflection in a mirror began to warp as if something was about to burst through. Frozen in place, Rachel couldn't believe her eyes, overwhelmed with fear and confusion. All of a sudden, a pale hand reached out from the mirror, followed by a pale yet hauntingly beautiful face gradually appearing. The face wore an expression of both sadness and anger, its hollow eyes seemingly piercing souls. Rachel recoiled in horror, knocking over the desk behind her as notebooks and books scattered. Yet, she couldn't take her eyes off the face emerging from the mirror. It was undeniably Mary Sawyer's. "Why summon me?" A voice, though faint, clearly emanated from the mirror, unmistakably Mary Sawyer's voice. Rachel's heart nearly stopped. She strived to remain calm. I just wanted to prove that all the stories about you aren't true. I wanted to find the truth." The truth? The sadness in Mary's voice was palpable. "Truth can sometimes be cruel. Are you sure you're ready to face it?" Rachel fell silent, realizing she might indeed not be ready to confront the truth that might be revealed. But in that instant, a stronger gust swept through. The lights suddenly turned back on, and Mary Sawyer's figure in the mirror vanished. The room returned to calm, but Rachel's heart remained unsettled for a long time. When the lights came back on, everything seemed to return to normal. But for Rachel, the world had turned upside down. From that night forward, a series of strange and unexplainable phenomena began occurring in her life. From random electrical malfunctions to unexplained cold drafts and hearing indistinct whispers at night, Rachel grew more convinced that on that cursed night, she didn't just summon a legend spirit, but also opened a portal to another realm. And it all started from an unusual ritual at a party. Rachel's skepticism was deeply stirred. She realized to solve these inexplicable oddities, she must delve deeper into the truth behind the Mary Sawyer legend. After the ritual, Rachel Reynolds' world began to subtly shift. She was always a staunch realist, explaining everything with logic and facts. However, over time, a series of perplexing events started to disturb her and her friends' lives, gradually eroding her skepticism. Initially, these happenings seemed harmless. Objects moving slightly or lights flickering without apparent cause. Rachel tried to find rational explanations for these phenomena, attributing them to electrical issues or the wind. But as time passed, these events became more frequent and harder to explain. Firstly, one friend, Jack, claimed he woke up in the middle of the night to see a vague figure standing by his bed. The figure didn't have a distinct face, but Jack insisted it was Mary Sawyer's spirit. Initially, Rachel thought it was his imagination, possibly a psychological effect from the post-ritual. However, as more friends began reporting similar visions, she was forced to reconsider their authenticity. An event that followed completely changed Rachel's perspective. On a drizzly afternoon, she and several friends were researching information about Mary Sawyer in the library. The library was deserted except for the sound of their group's whispers and the rain tapping against the windows. Suddenly, a book fell from the shelf, opening to the very chapter that narrated Mary Sawyer's story. This could perhaps be explained as a coincidence, but what happened next terrified the entire group. As they continued to flip through the pages, the lights in the room began to flicker until they went out completely. Then, a piercing scream echoed through the library, but when the lights came back on, they found that there were still only a few of them in the room. Now, even Rachel could not ignore this series of events. She began to feel an inexplicable anxiety, as if an unseen force was quietly surrounding her and her friends. This feeling was not just fear but also a deep sense of helplessness because she could not use logic and facts to explain all this. Just as Rachel tried to find a logical explanation behind it all, the situation escalated further. Accidents related to Mary Sawyer's past began to happen, ranging from simple, terrifying hallucinations to actual physical harm. The most shocking incident occurred during a school evening event when a beam suddenly broke, narrowly missing a student. There was no obvious reason that could explain why the seemingly sturdy beam would break at that moment. Through a series of events, Rachel's skepticism was gradually replaced by fear. She began to realize that she might have unwittingly activated some kind of force, a power long forgotten but still deeply buried in the history of Widows Peak High School. She realized that to end all this, she had to delve into the story of Mary Sawyer. Perhaps, only by facing the truth could she and her friends find a way to calm it all down. When Rachel Reynolds began her investigation, she expected resistance, but she did not anticipate anyone willing to stand by her side. However, unexpectedly, Tom Bennett became her ally. A local, Tom was considered an outcast in town and shared a deep curiosity about the story of Mary Sawyer. He possessed the local knowledge and resources that Rachel lacked, and their shared goal brought this unlikely pair together. Rachel and Tom's first step was to review all the public information, but they quickly realized these were just surface level and did not peel back the years of mystery shrouding Mary Sawyer's story. They decided to dig deeper, meaning they would need to talk to the older generation in town, those who might know the secrets buried in the FOG. At first, their progress was slow. Many townspeople avoided talking about Mary Sawyer's story, and some even seemed visibly disturbed by it, which deepened Rachel's belief that there were unknown facts hidden behind the story. But Rachel and Tom did not give up. They dug through old newspapers in the library, visited families who might know the truth, and gradually, a more complicated and darker picture began to emerge. They found that Mary Sawyer's story was not an isolated incident, but was closely linked to a series of unsolved mysteries that had occurred in the town over the decades. These incidents were intentionally concealed, revealing a complex web of power, betrayal, and silence, with Mary merely a part of it. The most breakthrough clue came from an elderly librarian who had worked in the town for decades. Initially wary of Rachel and Tom, her conscience eventually drove her to share a key piece of information, a forgotten file stored among the library's oldest records. The file recorded a legal case from years ago involving the secrets of a prominent local family, with Mary Sawyer unfortunately becoming a casualty of the dispute. Theo delved deeper into the truth. Rachel and Tom faced increasing resistance. Some people in town began to intimidate them, trying to stop them from uncovering the facts. But this only strengthened their determination to continue the investigation. Each secret revealed was like a ray of light through the fog, leading them toward the truth. In this process, the relationship between Rachel and Tom also deepened. They went from mere partners to trusted friends. They understood that the pursuit of truth was not just about revealing past secrets. It was also a quest for justice and truth. Eventually, after countless days and nights of effort, they uncovered a dark secret that shook the entire community. This secret involved not just Mary's death, but also revealed a deeper level of corruption and moral decay within the community. When the truth came out, it not only brought closure to Mary's story, but also led many in the town to reconsider their understanding of history and the concept of justice. For Rachel, this experience changed not just her view of Mary Sawyer's story, but also gave her a deeper understanding of what it means to face the unknown and seek the truth behind it. And for Tom, His involvement proved that even those marginalized in the community have the power to change the course of history. After revealing the dark secrets buried by the townspeople, they not only found justice for Mary Sawyer and other forgotten souls, but also brought relief and a new beginning for the entire community. As Rachel and Tom delved deeper into the fog of the mystery, every step seemed increasingly difficult and dangerous. But their perseverance and courage finally paid off when they discovered an old diary in a secret basement of Mary Sawyer's dilapidated mansion. The diary lay among a pile of disordered papers and abandoned personal items. Its cover was yellowed and the rusty lock had clearly not been opened for a long time. Rachel and Tom carefully turned its pages with great care, fearing they might crumble to dust. But the clear handwriting inside seemed to carry Mary's soul, resurrected from the dust of history. The contents of the diary completely overturned the long-standing legends of the town that had painted Mary as a monster. Through the lines, Mary's life was revealed. She was no monster but a talented and emotionally rich young woman. Her words were filled with hopes and dreams for the future. However, as the events unfolded, a series of unjust experiences overshadowed her life with darkness. Mary documented the deeds of those who acted out of self-interest and wielded power oppressively, actions that ultimately led to her demise. Her words conveyed pain and helplessness that resonated involuntarily in the hearts of Rachel and Tom. They now knew that this truth had to be surfaced. However, as Rachel and Tom were preparing to make their findings public, interference appeared. Someone was attempting to suppress the truth, hindering their investigation, even using threats to intimidate them. Unidentified phone calls, anonymous letters, break-ins at their homes, all conveyed a clear message. Someone did not want the true story of Mary Sawyer to be disclosed. This interference did not stop Rachel and Tom. On the contrary, it solidified their determination to pursue the truth. They began to meet privately with townspeople who were willing to support justice and the truth, many of whom were discontent with the long-standing rumors and misunderstandings. Once, they even met in secret with the granddaughter of a former town historian at night, who assured them of the veracity of the rumors about her family. Through these leads, Rachel and Tom were able to uncover a complex conspiracy where human depravity, envy, and greed lurked. After tireless work, Rachel and Tom were finally ready to share their findings with the world. The public's reaction to the contents of the diary and their other discoveries was a mix of shock and outrage. The discoveries not only rewrote the story of Mary Sawyer, but also challenged the townspeople's perceptions of themselves. It unveiled a history that had been concealed, turning an innocent victim into the centerpiece of a complex narrative, a story woven by those who had determined her fate in the past. When the truth finally came to light, the town's atmosphere began to subtly change. While some tried to ignore the new evidence, most began to decry the past injustices against Mary, demanding justice and punishment for those responsible. As the truth unearthed by Rachel and Tom gradually surfaced, they realized their actions had touched upon powerful and dangerous interests. The struggle led to one man, Edward Canning, a revered local historian and one of the background architects of Mary Sawyer's unfortunate fate. For years, he had tirelessly maintained misleading narratives about Mary to cover the truth, fearing that the uncovering of the truth would directly threaten his reputation and the interests of his family. Faced with this figure from Mary's past, Rachel encountered an unprecedented challenge. Canning not only had resources and power, but also the ability to shape narratives and folk tales. Rachel knew that combating Canning was not just a simple pursuit of truth. It was a confrontation with the cruel acts of the past. This confrontation came to a climax on a stormy night in an ancient library filled with materials and archives about Mary Sawyer. Canning admitted his role and the part he played, but insisted that everything he had done was to protect the reputation of the town and his family's interests. Throughout their exchange, Rachel sensed a deep fear lurking behind Canning's offenses, the fear of past truths being revealed. As the conversation progressed, Canning exhibited increasing signs of defeat and, to some extent, revealed remorse for his misdeeds. but his pride and fear prevented him from admitting it openly. Rachel realized that this confrontation was far more complicated than she had anticipated. She was not only battling one person's lies and crimes, but also the deeply rooted prejudices and fears of the society. After a protracted and perilous standoff, Rachel found key evidence which ultimately proved Mary Sawyer's innocence and exposed Cannings and his family's years of iniquity. The revelation not only caused a stir in the town, but also allowed Mary Sawyer's spirit to finally rest in peace. With the unveiling of the truth, Rachel profoundly understood the importance of history and reality over mystery and folk tales. She realized confronting the past and bravely unveiling facts is a responsibility that everyone should bear, not only for the wrongly accused innocent, but also so that everyone can learn from past mistakes for a more just and truthful world. Rachel's story did not end there but began a new chapter. She became an indispensable voice in the town, an advocate for the truth, and a leader who bravely faced the past. Her and Tom's efforts not only restored Mary Sawyer's reputation in history, but also encouraged more people to bravely search for and face the truth, no matter how uneasy or daunting it might be. As Mary Sawyer's spirit found peace, Rachel also found her mission: to bridge truth and history and seek justice for those souls forgotten or misunderstood by history. Her actions showed that even in the face of significant resistance and complex challenges, an individual's courage and persistence can lead to profound change.